Hi, my name is Gudrun from GE Designs. Welcome to my live quilting chat, Tipsy Tuesday. Thanks everybody for being here with me on this Tuesday evening in Minnesota. Beautiful, it's steaming up here. I think it's gonna get hot the next few days, but it was beautiful today. It was supposed to be pretty cloudy, but ended up being a great day. I wanna welcome everybody if you're a new viewer or if you've been with me for a while. I believe this is our 59th Tipsy Tuesday episode. So yoo-woo to that. Now, we have viewers on YouTube, so welcome, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you let us know who you are by putting your name and where you're tuning in from in the comments. On today's show, I want to show you how you can stripologize all of your patterns, whether they were written by me or not. You can take anybody else's pattern and flip it so that you can use your rulers to make all the cutting fast, easy, and accurate. So I'm also here, of course, to answer all your questions live. So make sure to post them in the comments if you have any. And we love the thumbs up and the hearts if you're on a mobile device. Keep them coming. And if you like something that you're seeing, of course, we can always share the video. If you're on Facebook, you can share the video, and that really helps us as well. So let's see. I was checking in all your comments before we actually went live, and I saw that we have a lot of Canada in the house. I saw Montreal, BC, Nova Scotia, Alberta, everywhere. So thanks for being with me, Canada. I saw even some Europe in the house. It's late, so thank you. And of course, all of the US. Love it, love it, love it. I even saw that Joni is with us from Costa Rica. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. We also have a giveaway towards the end of the show, so make sure you stick around. We both have a live giveaway. We pick a live viewer from your comments. So the more comments that you put in, the more chances to win, of course. And then we have a giveaway question at the end, as always. And our winner from last week was, I asked you this question. So here's the question. I asked you, have you made a quilted bag before? And our winner is Miss Katie Simonton. Yay, Katie! And she has won a $25 gift card to the store. And her answer was yes, she has, but I've always wanted to make the one in the sew-along. So that's amazing. Great, great, great. What a perfect combination there. Now, I hope you had a great Father's Day weekend. We actually got out a little bit. We spent our morning on a lake in gorgeous weather. And of course, got home around 2 p.m. and the storms rolled in right then and there. So that was perfect. We spent the rest of Father's Day just kind of working on some changes on the website. So big changes as we implemented flat rate shipping into the store. And so if you placed an order the past couple of days, you might have seen some changes in your checkout. So we now have a flat rate shipping. So just based on your weight or size of your packages, it's 4 tiers going from little letters. So if you order a pattern, pattern or two, it's $2.50 because it can be in the mail. And then we have $5 for under half a pound, and then half a pound to 5 pounds is $8.99, and it's going to be shipping to you if you're in the continental US for $8.99 by FedEx 2-day express, which is amazing. So we have better tracking, kind of better accountability. So we're hoping that works out well. It's a test this week, and we're hoping it works out well. Of course, you always have the option of choosing USPS for the same price, priority shipping. And so those of you with PO boxes would have to use that, or of course, always have that choice. So our top tier over 5 pounds, or our rulers and big mats, because they go into that category, will cap out at $13.99. So we're trying to keep it contained. So hope you can check that out if you place an order. Just making things easier for all of us, and hopefully more reliable for you too as well. So I did a Stripology Mixology lecture this morning. Thank you everybody that were with me. So this was our first kind of ran on our own. So we had almost a full house. People that signed up through the website and purchased access to the lecture, and it went really, really well. Thank you all. The next one will be this coming Friday night at 7 p.m. Central Time. So make sure that that's, make note of that. So if you're in a different time zone, make sure you put the right time. And then we have a Sunday at 1 p.m. And of course, I'm trying to do different times. So trying to appeal to different time zones. And this morning, we had a lot of viewers from over in Europe, which was awesome. So UK, I believe we had 5 or 6 people from the UK watching. And so that was amazing. So if you, I'm just trying to figure out what would work best for different people. So before we schedule the next round of lectures in July for July dates, so tell me what times of day would really work for you, and please flip it to Central Time first before you tell me, because I'm really challenged in these, as you've heard from me before, I'm really challenged in that whole time zone flipping. I'm really good at math, but something about this whole time zone, I always tend to flip it around, go in the wrong direction. So, wow, we just had a big storm roll in here. It was loud. You might have heard it. So do we have any comments on time zones? I know we can't see comments. Can we see comments? Okay, Melissa signed up for the weekend. Looking forward to it. That's great. And loving the flat rates. Thank you for that. Okay, great. So just tell me if you have any idea on time zones or times for lectures, and we will definitely take that into consideration. Let us know if weekends work better, or weekdays, evenings, mornings, whatever. We will figure it out. We're here trying to make this work for all of us.
5 p.m.
Okay, good. 10 a.m., 5 p.m.
7 p.m.
Okay, I see I'm not the only one that's terrible with time zones. And so even when you throw in some further like New Zealand or Australia, then I'm really, really challenged. So please just don't trust me to calculate it for you. Anyways, I wanted to get to our main topic. So a lot of you have asked me to, because I've thrown this term out there, to stripologize patterns. That means taking patterns that I didn't write, and I didn't write them with Stripology rulers in mind, or maybe it's some of my older books before the Stripology rulers. And I tell you, I have always been telling everybody, you can Stripologize any pattern. And so I wanted to kind of bring all that information together into one show, so that it'd be a great place to find everything. And now that we have all these different bonus charts and things, that I wanted to talk about how you can take a pattern and Stripologize them. So first off, some of the helpers, all of these charts that I'm talking about, you can find on my website. There's on the top menu bar, you'll find a button, probably you'll have to click on it, that says more, and then it's under bonus charts and templates. Bonus charts and templates. I've also included it in the description of this video. So if you're on YouTube, it's going to be below, a link right there to them. If you're on Facebook, it's going to be in the header of the video, and so you can watch it there or find it there. Just click on it there. But you'll also find it on the website. So the first one that's always going to be very helpful when you're Stripologizing anything, and that is our 1/4 inch cut chart. So I want to show you here in the overhead. So this is the chart that you can just download. So this will tell you how to do any 1/4 inch cut with the rulers. So with the XL, or with the original, or with the with a squared ruler. So here you will find your strip width that you need, and then you'll have your first cuts, and then you slide the ruler over and you have your second cuts. So whenever you are doing any kind of 1/4 inch, this is the chart that you would go to. And if you need to subcut 1/4 inch increments, this would work the same. So you cut your strips first, and then you need to cut it into squares. This is the chart that you would follow. So on the same page, this is for the, like I said, the 3 larger rulers. There will also be a chart for the mini ruler. So that is, it will have the 1/4 inch increments for the mini ruler, and also 1/8 inch increments. Now, if by chance you are cutting anything with 1/8 inch increments, this is a chart for you to use if you want to cut multiples with the mini ruler. Now, of course, I will try at all costs to avoid any 1/8 inch increments, because whenever I experienced that in my previous patterns. I tend to just up my size of the square, and I like to trim it. So there's this Stripology triangle cheat sheet that you can find there too. So this tells you exactly when you're making half square triangles or quarter square triangles using, and this of course I like to use my mini to trim that up, or if you're doing bigger, my squared ruler or XL. So here is the rule for that. If you're doing half square triangles, to cut 2 squares an inch larger than the finished size of the half square triangle. So for example, if your pattern is telling you to cut squares, draw a diagonal line, sew on each side and cut them apart, they would probably be telling you, if you're making 4-inch finished squares, they would be telling you to cut 4 7/8 inch to do that. So I would just cut 5. And then you trim to a size half an inch larger than the finished size. So if you're doing quarter square triangles, or hourglass blocks, you would cut 2 squares that are 1.5 inches larger than the finished size. But just to kind of show you how my philosophy behind this is, I try to save a lot of time in the steps. I have actually a video, and this is a video from a previous Tipsy Tuesday episode. It's actually we just cut it from a Tipsy Tuesday episode where I'm talking about this exact method of making half square triangles and quarter square triangles, and then making this little bonus topper from that. So let's just watch a video, and then we'll give you a more sense of kind of what I'm talking about. Now, I love to use my rulers whenever I'm making half square triangles or quarter square triangles. So I love to cut my squares oversized and then trim them down to a perfect size for whatever pattern I'm working on. So then I don't have to worry too much about if my seam allowance is 100%, or maybe my pressing is causing a little bit of distortion. So I don't have to worry about these things because I'm going to be trimming my block to a perfect size afterwards. I can also save some time and skip the part where you have to draw that line on the back of the squares and sew on each side and all that. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So let's just switch to the above camera. So when I'm working with 5-inch squares, this is I'm just going to give you an example. This of course works for whatever squares, size square you're working on. And of course we're going to use the mini ruler for the smaller sizes. If you're working with bigger sizes, you would use the regular Stripology squared. But let's say I'm going to make some half square triangles. So I'm going to take 2 squares, I'm going to layer them right sides together. And what I did include in this ruler is whenever I'm cutting squares apart in half diagonally, I included these diagonal white lines here in each corner. And so I recommend using the 6.5-inch slit, or the lines here on the right side of the ruler if you're right-handed, and then the ones on the left here if you're left-handed, because it just depends on which side stabilizes. So you're going to just take those dotted lines and align them at the bottom of the square, aligning both sides here, and that will result in that 6.5-inch slit will just line up perfectly corner to corner on the square. So then you're just going to go into that slit and cut your squares apart diagonally in half. So now you have these 2 little sandwiches here that you can take straight to your sewing machine and sew along that cut edge. Now whenever I'm working with anything that needs to be cut on the diagonal like that, I actually like to take my squares, and you can use a little bit of a stabilizer, so best press or magic sizing or something to spray them, but definitely at least give them a good press with a steam iron, because that will make your fabrics react so they don't react when you are pressing your half square triangles. So you're going to sew these together, and then you're going to press them. So now you have half square triangles like that. And like I said, I don't have to worry about too much about my seam being straight or being at 100% quarter inch, because I'm going to square this up. Since we started with a 5-inch square, this could be squared down to a 4.5-inch square. So I can find that right here. I find the white lines are for 1/2-inch sizes. So I find my 4.5-inch square. I center that on my half square triangle, and I can use that diagonal line right on the seam to line up, and then I'm going to just make my cuts. I follow the slits down from the 4.5 inch corners, so I'm going to be cutting through the 1 and the 5.5 inch slits, trimming 2 sides and then turning it to do the other 2 sides. However, I am going to turn this into a 1/4 square triangle. So I take 2 of those. I'm just going to take 2 different ones. You could, of course, do this if you're making hourglass blocks with just 2 fabrics. You just take the 2 identical half square triangles you get out from the 2 squares, layer them back together. But in this case, I'm just going to take 2 of them. So you want to layer them right sides together, making sure that the seams are nesting. So this seam is going one way and the other seam is going the other way. And you're going to kind of feel them nesting together and lining up those corners. And you're going to repeat the same process, using that corner here on the bottom to line up with the bottom of the square, because we're going to cut it now right across that seam. But before I just blindly do that cut, I also want to double check and see if my seam is getting lined up with a horizontal line. So I just kind of slide it back down to make sure that I notice, because that one is more important than being directly corner to corner. It's more important that this stitch line is aligned with the horizontal line here. And now you're ready to cut it apart. If you feel like, if you're aligned with the stitch line and you feel like you're too off on either side, just make sure you kind of move it so you split the difference. You're equally off on both sides and cut it apart, because that's not going to matter in the end, because we're going to trim it afterwards. So I cut that apart again. So now you have your sandwiches ready to go. Take that to your sewing machine and sew again just along the diagonal side, and then you're going to press it and you have your 1/4 square triangles. Whenever I press 1/4 square triangles, 4 patches or anything like that that have 4 seams meeting in the middle, I like to spin my seams or press them in a circle, like you see here. And then you create a little bit of a 4 patch here in the middle. This makes the center not so thick and bulky, so it makes the block lie really nice and flat. So now I'm going to trim this down to a 4-inch square. For a 4-inch square, I'm going to use the black lines. So remember, black lines are for whole inch sizes, white lines are for 1/2 inch. So I find my 4-inch square, which is right here. I'm going to center that on my 1/4 square, and look at that, I just placed my little ruler sticker right here in the middle, because that's going to point right at my center and help me line up these diagonal lines a lot faster. So now I'm centered automatically, and I'm going to make 2 cuts through the 0 and the 4. Again, I marked it with my ruler stickers. So you obviously know I've been making a few of these. So when you're doing a lot of the same stuff, it's really nice to just mark it with the stickers, and then you don't have to think about it too much. You just line things up so much faster. Line it up again after you turn it, and then you cut the other 2 sides, and you got a perfect 1/4 square triangle. So this you can kind of keep playing with, and if you're using this for any pattern, you can use this method for any pattern you're working on. If you see in a block that you're making that you're going to be needing 2.5 inch finished 1/2 square triangles. So here's the rule for 1/2 square triangles. So for 1/2 square triangles, if in the pattern they're telling you to cut either triangles or they're telling you to cut 4 7/8, you just add a 1 inch to the finished size. So if you're going to need 3-inch finished 1/2 square triangles, you're going to cut 4-inch squares and go from there. If you're making 1/4 square triangles like this one, you will just go 1.5 inches larger than the finished size. For example, this one is going to be a finished size 3.5. So I go 1.5 inches over, started with 5-inch squares, and you can get your trimmings and end up with perfect squares to begin with. So let me put up a little photo here to show you. I included this little cheat sheet. I created a cheat sheet that I also made a PDF out of it, just for a reminder. I know it's hard to remember these things. So 1/2 square triangles, add 1 inch, 1/4 square triangle, add 1.5 inches. So I was playing with these units, and last night, I just made this last night. I thought I would put something together. I found all these Halloween 5-inch squares, and I put together a really fun table topper, which I'm calling Sabrina since it's Halloween. And let's switch to the overhead camera. So I made this one, takes 36 squares. I had 36 squares, and you're going to just make the quarter square triangles blocks out of your 36 squares. So you end up with, starting with 36 squares, you'll end up with 36 blocks. And then you can just align them in rows. So I made 6 rows with 6 blocks, and you can just kind of turn them any which way. Now, one thing when you are working with these units with the technique that I showed you, you'll end up, when you spin the blocks, you'll end up with half the blocks spun one direction and the other half spun the other direction. So spinning one way. So that, to help with that, when I was laying out my topper, I just had all the blocks spinning one way in the first 3 rows, and then the other set of blocks spinning the other way. I put them on the bottom 3 rows. And then you just sew the rows together, press in opposite directions, sew it together, and that's it. And of course you can do something totally different from a topper. This topper measures about 21.5 inches square. You can make this into a runner just by, you can just make however many units as you want, or whatever you have. And then you can also make it into a smaller topper, like a candle mat, maybe with 9. You can do maybe a placemat with just a smaller number of squares. Even if you have just a few, you can do just a little mug rug with 6 blocks. So remember, for each block, you'll need 1 square. So if you have 12 squares, you'll end up with 12 blocks, and so on. So like I said, just go to my website under free patterns and I think it's templates link, and I have loaded this up, and you can print it out, or just to something for you to remind you of where that is. But I hope you have fun with Sabrina. I'd love to show you. And of course, it doesn't have to be Halloween. It could be anything. It could be Christmas. It could be whatever fabric you got. Just really, really fun. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and I give you a little bit of an insight. Maybe, did you like the Halloween episode? Yes, I decked out the set for Halloween. And if you're wondering who that was on my right there with the glowing red eyes, that's Victoria. Yeah, she's a ghost, but I love that kind of stuff for Halloween, so that was fun. But I have the topper with me here, the little Sabrina topper. It was actually just sitting on the shelf, so I thought it was perfect to pull it out if you wanted to see it again. And so this is one of the sheets that you can print out. I saw some questions come through right away, and I made a little note about them. So one of the questions was from Melanie, wondering why I didn't sew on each side and then cut the triangles apart or squares apart and do it from there. So I am all about, and then I would be avoiding by sewing bias edges. But here's the deal. I will try and eliminate extra time. That means I'm trying to save time on all the steps that I do. So when you cut triangles apart or squares apart in triangles and just sew them that way, yes, you're sewing bias edges. But here are all the steps that I eliminate when I'm making half square triangles by doing it that way. So I eliminate having, first of all, of course, eliminate the 1/8 inch increments. But I also eliminated having to draw lines. I know a lot of you maybe have some things on your sewing machine, sure you never have to do that anyways. But then sewing on each side, and then you have to go and cut them apart. Instead, I can just cut them apart as I'm cutting out the squares, and it's just done. So I eliminate those steps, and when I sew that seam also, by oversizing my units, I don't have to worry too much about my 1/4 inch seam either, because we're going to square them up anyway. So if your seam is a little narrow, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal when you do it this way. And also, we don't have to worry about pressing distortion because we're going to trim them to a perfect size anyway. So why don't I leave them as squares and sew on each side? I just think it's, for me, it's more accurate for me to sew on that cut edge and have my 1/4 inch foot on that. And plus it saves time. And even if I'm sewing a bias edge, if it gets distorted, I'm squaring it up anyway. So it's going to be a perfect size regardless. So I just feel like I save time eliminating a lot of steps. And so I can get more done. That's just me. The other question was that I noticed popped up was what kind of blade I use for my cutters. So with all the Stripology rulers, the smallest blade that you can use, or smallest cutter, is a 45mm blade. So I either use that or my big 60. You can't use anything smaller. And if you were wondering about what type of blade, I use alpha cutters. So usually I'm using alpha blades with my cutters. I just feel like that's the best quality blades. They last a long time. I've tried both endurance blades and regular blades. Endurance blades will last you quite a bit longer. However, of course, if you get a nick in your blade, they're not going to last as long. So I use both, and I love the endurance blade because they just stay sharp quite a bit longer. So let's see if we have any other questions. So this is one of the cheat sheets, yes, that you can download. Oh, somebody was asking about the quilts, name of the quilts behind me, and the two quilts are hanging behind me. So the one on the back wall hanging, the orange and green, is called Dreamweaver, and then the one on the ladder is called Jelly Forest. Both of these are in my Strip Your Stash book. And the reason I put those up there is because I wanted to show you a couple of more charts, first of all, before we move on to more questions. So there are more charts. We also have some XL triangle charts. So these are newer charts, and I don't know if you have seen these before. So here is one using the XL ruler. So this is the one if you want to cut 60-degree triangles. So you can cut 45-degree right triangles, and here's the adjustments that you need to do with 60-degree triangles or 30-degree right triangles. That is just a 60-degree cut in half if you need to do like a half triangle. So here's the adaptations you would need to do for that. And then 45-degree right triangles, you cannot cut every size with the XL just because it is a diagonal cut. But if you want to do that with the ruler, here's the chart for that. And also, if you did our strip along last strip along, there are certain sizes of half hexagons you can cut with the Stripology XL ruler, and here's that chart. So those two charts are also available under that same link. And then I provided you with a brand new one that you have today. So one of the things, if you're taking a pattern and you want to stripologize it, so many pattern writers will tell you how many strips to cut to subcut certain amount of squares or rectangles. I always do that because that's how I work. I like to cut my strips first and then I subcut the strips. So, but there are patterns. I actually just pulled out a book that I have just to kind of show you an example. And this will just tell you how many rectangles or how many squares you need for a certain size. So here, example, you need 34 3 by 4 3/4 inch rectangles, and then you need 102 3-inch squares. So of course this drives me nuts because I would like to know exactly how many strips I need to cut for this. So this is a typical pattern that I would need to stripologize and do some math before I would get started. So I have made a little chart for you. So I call these the stripologizing charts, and I'm going to talk about the top part of the chart first. So here is the top part of the chart. These are the adjustments that you need to do when using a pattern that doesn't state the number of strips to cut before doing subcuts. So I have made these charts here, and these are the number of units you can get from each width of fabric strip. And I made it, calculated out from a 40-inch wide fabric. So 40 inches of usable fabric. Normally we can sometimes get 42 inches of usable fabric from Quilt Shop Quality Fabrics, but especially if we get it at Joann's, sometimes those are a little bit shorter. So I just was on the safe side with 40 inches. So you can use that for pretty much any fabric, cotton fabrics. So here's how you work this. So if you're cutting 1.5 inch strips and subcutting that into squares. Here's how many squares you would get from a strip. So 1.5 inches would give you 26 squares from each strip. So, and this also, what if you were cutting strips that were 1.5, but you needed to cut them into rectangles that were 5.5. So you were cutting 1.5 by 5.5 inch rectangles. So then you would, of course, you can kind of calculate and check if it's easier for you to cut a 1.5 inch strip and subcut it into 5.5, or cut a 5.5 inch strip and subcut it into 1.5. This is the kind of stuff I do for you already when I write patterns, but here's an easy way to do that. So if you're subcutting it into 5.5, so from 1.5 inch strip, you would get 7 rectangles. But if you would cut the strip at 5.5, you would get 26 out of it. So I always kind of determine how many of these do I need. Will I have a lot left of the strip if I do a 5.5 inch strip, or is it better to cut 1.5? Because I always do this when I write patterns. I will always do that math for you. And so the reasoning behind cutting a wider strip or a skinnier strip is all about what's left over. I try to have the least left over. So utilizing as much of the fabric as possible. So those two lines on the chart, there are 1/2 inch increments on the top up to 8 inches, and then there's 1/4 inch increments on the bottom chart up to 7 3/4. So hopefully this will be helpful for you. So if I was stripologizing a pattern like that, and I would just make those calculations and just kind of scribble them into my book, or and then if you're doing a lot of the same cuts, or if you're doing, for example, working with fat quarters, and each fat quarter we need to be cut into a 2 inch and a 2.5 and a 1.5 and a 3 3/4, I would kind of put all those strip sizes and kind of line them up, see how my ruler would work, and then of course use my arrows to put on those spots on the ruler so that you could easily cut every single one right and accurately. So how many of you is going to be using this? Is this going to be helpful for you? I hope so. But I also wanted to show you, because we've talked about, and I've talked about this before, is cutting your own pre-cuts or cutting your fabric the Stripology way, which is taking the 1/2 yards or the fat quarters and cutting them into those pre-cut sizes myself, which I do all the time. So 10 inch squares, 2.5 inch strips, and 1.5 inch strips. The 10 inch squares can be cut into 5 inch squares. So this is the little image that we've used, and you can find under that same link with charts and templates. So let's put that one up. So this is usually how I cut things up if I just want a variety. So that I get a 10 inch strip, 2.5 inch strips, and then usually 1 or 2 1.5 inch strips. So from 21 1/2 yards, I would get 2 full layer cakes, 1 full jelly roll, and then 42 or more 1.5 inch strips. So this is kind of a chart, but there are so many other things you can do with a 1/2 yard or a fat quarter. And so I wanted to give you some more options. So those are included here on the bottom of this. So here I have, what can you cut from a 1/2 yard? So some of you have told me, so I've talked about, on the top, I talk about the 10 inch squares, 2.5 inch strips, and 1.5 inch strip. So you would cut 1 10 inch strip, 2 2.5, and then 1 1.5. Sometimes you get 2. All depends on how that fabric was cut. So then I added this on the bottom from a 12-piece bundle, which is our stash builder bundles, of course. You would get 48 10 inch squares, 24 2.5 inch strips, and then 12 to 24 1.5 inch strips. But what if you, for example, I don't really use a lot of 1.5 inch strips, I don't really use 10 inch squares, so what do elsewise? So I give you some other options. So here, if you don't like 1.5 inch strips, you can cut a 10 inch, just 10 inch and 2.5. So you can cut just 1 10 inch strip and then 3 2.5 inch strips from that 1/2 yard. So out of a 12-piece bundle, you get 48 10 inch squares and 36 2.5 inch strips. So here I have another scenario. Maybe you would want some 5-inch squares. You want 10-inch squares and 5-inch squares, and then maybe some 2.5-inch strips. So then we would cut 10-inch strip, 5-inch strip, and one 2.5. So then a 12-piece bundle would give you, again, 48 10-inch squares, 96 5-inch squares, and then 12 2.5-inch strips. One more scenario, just for fun. What if you don't need 10-inch squares? 5-inch squares, 2.5, and 1.5. So you would cut one 5-inch strip, you'd cut 4 2.5, and then one 1.5. Sometimes you'd get 2. And the 12-piece bundle would give you 96 5-inch squares, 48 2.5-inch strips, and then 12 to 24 1.5-inch strips. So just a little math for you and some fun if you are ever trying to plan something out based on half yards. And of course this, if you're cutting from fat quarters, it's just half of the measurement. So 12 fat quarters will give you half of that. So easy math. And so hoping that this will be something that you can put in your folders. I see a lot of you have a Gudrun folder. I saw that Bonnie said instead of using stripologizing patterns, they use the term they're Gudrunizing the patterns. I love that too. So you can stripologize or you can Gudrunize, whatever works for you. All right, so love the charts. That's great. And then let's see, any questions? This is the best Tipsy Tuesday. What a bunch of information. Yeah, I try to condense everything together. And then, of course, if you're ever looking for something from a previous Tipsy Tuesday episode, I know I've talked about this a lot of times before, but if you're new, go to the website. We have a link that says videos, and then a sublink that says Tipsy Tuesday. That will give you the list of all the Tipsy Tuesday episodes. It gives you a little description of the main topic of each show, because usually we have a main topic. So then you can just kind of go through that and look and see what you find. So, okay, are you seeing any questions over on YouTube, Mr. Producer? Lot of helpful info I see. Do you like cutting with a larger rotary cutter versus a smaller? So I use them both. My 45, usually when I'm just trimming blocks or doing something simple, if I'm cutting multiple layers, I like my big one. And that's mainly because this guy, I wouldn't cut more layers than maybe 4 to 6 with a 45 millimeter. But my big 60, I can cut up to 8, 10, 12 layers. So that's when I use my big guy. Okay, Marion's asking, where can we get the Strip Your Stash book? It shows sold out on your website. Will this be an ebook? So this is a book that is published by C&T. I just got notice that shipment is on the way, so these guys will be back in the store probably Thursday morning. So anytime something is out of stock, make sure you sign up for the notifications to be notified when it's back in stock. So we are getting more, and I actually ordered another order, so we'll be getting lots of that book. It's a book that came out. It came out actually same year as the Stripology ruler came out, but whenever I have to write for a publisher, all the work happens a year before that. So that's why the ruler is not included in that book, even though all the quilts use 2.5-inch strips. But they are very easy to stripologize because I insisted that I tell you how many strips are cut first before they're subcut.
Yeah, I had a great Father's Day.
Oh, somebody asked, did Mr. Producer have a great Father's Day? And he told me to tell you that he had a great one. Yes, he got a morning cocktail on the lake, so that was good. Somebody says, how about curves? Do you have any tips for that? No, because I try to avoid those at this point. I never say never, so I might come up with a cool technique that makes curves really easy, but right now, no. Did I miss the demo on the spinning seams? No, you did not miss a demo on spinning seams, but I will put this on the list for next week. So next week, I'll demonstrate the spinning seams for all of you. Let's see. Thank you so much for the charts. That's great, great, great. You're scrolling by too fast.
Great info, great info.
You need to do some drink recipes and do the math for multiple drinks, or if we do need to make smaller ones too. Well, usually my drink recipes are for one cocktail, except for I forgot to make a note when I posted this sangria recipe last week that I forgot to make a note that this makes a whole pitcher. You don't want to make sangria for one person. I mean, that's just wrong. Okay, what did Kobe give to Papa for Father's Day? Kobe gave him a really nice card, and I have to say, if anybody's out there in the card business, you know, please make some more doggy cards that have a black dog, because none of them have a black dog. So every single birthday card I have gotten from Kobe, or he has gotten from Kobe, or Father's Day, Mother's Day, they have this really nice puppy on the front, and we always use a black Sharpie to make him black. It's kind of a standing joke, but yeah, there's not many black dogs. I just thought that was kind of funny. Anyways, do I use EQ quilt software? No, I don't. I used to way back in the day when I first started designing, but not anymore. I design everything in Illustrator. Okay, great cheat sheets. Spinning seams. No, I'll promise. I'll come next. I'll give it to you next week, for sure. A lot of you are talking about how you are already cutting all your leftovers into those increments. I tell you, it's a game changer. Once you have your units ready to go, it's just a game changer. And of course, if you need pattern ideas, I've got lots. Using all of those. Okay. Any other questions on the charts? So where you can find the charts, go to my website under bonus charts and templates. Sometimes you will have to click on that more button to find the bonus charts and templates, but now you will have this extra one, and so a little extra motivation to Stripologize or Gudrunize other people's patterns. Gotta love that. Somebody asked about the lectures. So the lectures are not full for Friday and Sunday. We will cut off the registrations a few hours before, just because we need time to send everybody the information on the links and stuff to join in. But we still have openings for both Friday and Sunday. Cheryl's asking, is Illustrator a program or an app? It's a software. It's part of the Adobe suite. So I use Illustrator and InDesign and Photoshop for all of my designing and layouts for all my books and patterns. Okay, so enjoy. Somebody's asking, Rosemary's asking about a spinning seam question, but let's save that till next week when I actually demonstrate it. So that's cool. All right, so I have some updates on some things, but do we have a live winner today? Ready? See what we got? Yes, we have Donna Klokman. Congratulations, Donna. You are our $25 gift card winner. We will reach out, or if you see this, please send us an email or a message on Facebook, and we'll get that gift card to you. Thank you, thank you. So I wanted to just quickly remind you of our sew along happening in July. If you've been under a rock or something and didn't know about it, I have my bag here. So let me show you one more time. This is our sew along, the big grab and go tote. And so unfortunately we sold out of all the kits and all the laminated fabric. But if you're in Gudrun's Quilt Crew on Facebook, I kind of opened up a thread there where people could post links to stores, quilt shops all over the place where they could find some laminated fabric. If they want to use that for the bottom, you can of course use whatever fabric on the bottom that you want. The laminated will just make it really easy to clean. And so you can use canvas, or you could use outdoor fabrics, upholstery fabric. You can use denim, whatever you feel like, or just quilting cottons, of course. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun. Yes, not my favorite thing to do is sewing bags, but I am excited about the fact that you are so excited about it. So that'll be great. So this is, of course, not starting until July. We will be here next week, but the following two, so the 2 weeks following 4th of July weekend, we will not have a Tipsy Tuesday. We will have a check-in for a Friday, though, on the road. And so stay tuned for all of that fun stuff. So you do have plenty of time to gather materials, and the foam, I put some links in the description of the video also if you want to get the foam that I use for the inside of the bag. And then also, it has all the information on the sew along. If you just don't know anything about what I'm talking about, go to my website, and on the blog, we made a blog post with all the info where to find everything. The book, of course, the pattern is in the Fast and Furious family book right here. And so we still have some books, and it's also available as an ebook. So if you are not able to get something shipped to you, we have it available as an ebook option. What was that question?
1 yard.
How much for the laminated? You need 3/4 of a yard. So whether it is 44 inches wide or 50, you still need 3/4 of a yard. It needs to be 27 inches by either 40 or whatever you got. So that 3/4 of a yard is the material. Oh, I didn't talk about the table runner. The table runner is Little Diana. So that's a little bitty single pattern. Both of the quilts are in the Strip Your Stash book, and both use 2.5-inch strips. It's funny, when I made this quilt, I just really wanted to do something different. So I chose orange and green. So all the strips were orange and green. And so that's kind of probably not the most common colors, but I love it so much. And so there's scrappy orange strips and scrappy green strips. So I just went into my bins and started pulling out all the greens and all the oranges that I had. I am loving my baby lock. I have not tried any embroidery because I am busy sewing and piecing some quilts for the new book. And I'm just working on one. And speaking of the spinning seams demo, I am working on a block that spins the seam beautifully. So I maybe will give you a sneak peek and show you that next week. But I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And I have a good friend from OESD, and she sent me a full box of stuff for embroidery. So at first I was a little overwhelmed because I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm excited to dive in. So I will share what I come up with and play with. So I want to really try and make something, a little embroidery, something to take with me to see my grandson, something for the baby. So if you got any ideas of something I can embroider for the baby, just to have something.
Which baby lock do you have?
I have the Baby Lock Solaris, so the big mama. So I love the big throat, and I have the big hoop, and I did order a magnetic hoop. It's not here yet. I don't know why it's taking so long to ship to me, so I'll have to check on that. But I did quilt a crib size quilt in the hoop, and then I've quilted some table runners, and I love piecing on it. It's got all these new bells and whistles that I wasn't used to with my 17-year-old Viking, just because, you know, it was 17 years old.
Linda wants to know, does she need to use the little ruler to make the table runner?
Linda wants to know, do I need to use the little ruler for the table runner? If you have the squared ruler or the XL, it does have measurements up to down to 4 inch, so you can use either of those to make it. You can of course use regular rulers. You just squaring it up to that size, the hourglass blocks. You can absolutely use regular rulers. Of course, just the mini will make it so much easier and more handy using a smaller ruler.
Do you have a suggestion for a baby quilt, a pattern for a baby quilt?
Do I have a suggestion for a baby quilt pattern? Now, all of my single patterns and also the patterns in my books will give you multiple sizes, and if the quilt design lends itself to a baby quilt or a crib size, there is that size in it. So there are a lot of options. Too many options for me to list. There are so many. Okay, so I want to showing you some updates on some products. First off, I want to talk about the the bundles that we're getting back in stock. So I've told you that I'm not going to show you the bundles that we're restocking. So right now in the house, and actually probably being put into the shop right now, the kids have been bagging, is Heartland Holiday. Something that everybody's been waiting for. I got a lot of it, but if this round sells out again, don't worry. I have another one on order that I hope to get. But as you know, I've explained, sometimes they run out when there's a lot of reorders. So that's here. Also the panels for the Heartland Holiday and some of the 1-yarders. We did order more of those as well. Also in the house, a restock is Tahoe Ski Week. That bundle is here and being cut right now. It's probably not in the store yet, but again, if you signed up for those notifications, you will get the email right away when it's put into the store, so you'll be able to get it. The Black, White, and Red Hot is also in the house. Geometry is in the house. So again, not in the store yet, but it will be coming. So if you didn't sign up for notifications, you can go into the store and do that right now. Now we have the Tahoe Charm Packs back in stock, and we have some Harvest Moon in stock. We actually got the panel cut up and in the store right now. So, and the bundles will unfortunately have to be adjusted. It will not have all 12 fabrics as before because they were sold out of one of the SKUs. So we will have some adjusted bundles probably being listed by tomorrow or so. Just wanted to give you an update on that. I did wanted to tell you on Cosmo, some of the lines that I showed you last week. Cosmo, both the pink and the turquoise or the teal, I reordered them. I don't know yet if I can get them. And then I also ordered more of the Morning Glory. So I don't know, again, if I can get it all. Hopefully, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Unfortunately, Shimo will not be coming back. It's sold out, but I've heard that she has another line coming this fall. So similar line, and I will make sure to order deep on that one with a similar same look. But I have a couple of new things that I'm excited to show you. First off is our Hope label. So I got the labels from Spoonflower, so they are printed on the fabric, and these are in the store, and we're just selling for you can get, buy as however many you want. They're just cut like this, so you have room to, if you wanted to fold them under, you have room to do that on all 4 sides. If you wanted to fuse them on, you can do that, whatever, or you can piece them into your quilt backs as well. So these are in the store now. It's the same Hope label that you could download and print yourself, but here it is on fabric and printed. And so all you have to do when you get this, I always say, just give it a good press. That's kind of heat sets everything, and then it's ready to sew in. And then I have a new bundle. And this is a bundle, it's very limited. So some bundles are from me just gathering kind of themed fabrics from different directions. And then I put them all together into a theme bundle. And this one is a very, very, very much of a focused theme bundle because I'm calling it Birds in Paradise. And why in paradise? Well, I got to go to Costa Rica for the first time not last year, 2 years ago. And I was absolutely in love. We were in the rainforest and just seeing all the birds and the wildlife, just being inside it was magical. And it was so amazing. So these fabrics are all kind of focused on the tropical birds. So I've been pulling these together for a while, so we only have, like I said, a limited number, and this won't be restocked because it's stuff from everywhere. So let me show you. I want to start with this big, big, big print here. This is, of course, the toucans and the macaws, and it's just like takes me back right away. And this comes, we have another one that's a similar scale, but kind of tighter together. This is all the toucans and the macaws, and smaller here, sitting on the bamboo. And then we have Birds in Paradise flowers, and we have flying macaws. And then this one is really fun. toucans and parrots and stuff. And then, of course, just some great coordinates. We have the flying feathers and the tropical leaves. And then some great basics. We have this kind of these palms. And so great blues that coordinate well with all of them. A great yellow polka dot. And then a smaller scale orange dot with yellow dots. So really fun. This just really takes me back to Costa Rica or any tropical place. Just gorgeous. So again, this is very limited, so please don't get mad at me if it sells out really fast. I know things happen that way, and we are just trying our best to increase our orders and get more of stuff. And so I know a lot of you have been asking if you can pre-order some things that are coming, and we are working on that. So hopefully we will have something to show you next week on that. But we're going to finish it off with, of course, our giveaway question. So our giveaway question for this week to be entered into our giveaway is, what was your first strip quilt? Now, if you haven't made one, you just say, I haven't made one yet, and maybe you'll tell me which one you want to make. So I have so many strip quilts, and I've written so many strip patterns, but the first strip quilt I ever made was just a simple rail fence, and that was my first big quilt, actually. I did a lot of little stuff first when I started quilting, little wall hangings and table runners and placemats until I got brave enough to actually do a lap size quilt. That was a lap size. So it was a rail fence done back in the early 90s. So it was like burgundy and dark deep green and gold, and really matched well with my living room back then. But I don't think I have that quilt anymore. I think it ended up being like just pretty much falling apart because I hand quilted it, and I didn't hand quilt it really tight. It was pretty far spaced, so those seams obviously were not sewn with a perfect 1/4 inch, so they started separating, and yeah, all kinds of things. But that's the fun stuff about, you know, growing in quilting. But that was my first one, a rail fence, my first strip quilt.
What pattern would you do with that?
What pattern would I do with Birds in Paradise? Ooh, something with large areas to show off these birds. Some of them are, not all of them. There's only 2 that are direction, 2 or 3 or 4 directional. So some directional, so you want to think about that. I would say like Teen Spirit or Elvira would be really cool. You'd have to think about the directional on Elvira though. I think if you do a Kira and pair up always a solid or like one of the calmer prints with a big print, that would be really wild and fun because the triangles are kind of like wings. Yeah, so much you could do. But that's going to be it for us tonight, and I will be here next week. June 30th is our next Tipsy Tuesday, and I'll spin some seams for you. And that will be at 7 p.m. Central Time. And of course, if you're on Facebook, well, we're on live on YouTube as well. We're calling it our Happy Friday show, 3 p.m. Central Time on Friday, and I will have a fresh new cocktail for you. So thank you all so much for being with me tonight. I'll see you next time.